So just question yourself. You don't have to believe everything you think. And the deeper question is maybe who are you without thinking it? If you stopped thinking in that manner, in that pattern, when you think about people, who are you without that? Hello. So today I want to talk to you about a few things. If you want to be resilient, you have to streamline your processes, your resources. You need to streamline your internal mind, body, spirit resources, mental resources, and your, thought processes, however you want to look at it. They need to be not working against themselves, and they need to be going in the same direction. So one of the things I used to do, because I come from a situation where there's multiple perspectives of tradition and prayer, and yes, I'm a middle-aged woman with crystals and oils and the things. And so, like, I had a horse that wasn't so well off, doing so well, and I put him with a horse that was known to calm horses and help horses and people heal. And I put him in a clean space with good food, nutrition, and the prayers, the crystals, and the nutrition and the medication. All of it pointed in the same direction. Okay. And so that's kind of an external view of what I'm talking about today. Where if I'm going to try to help this horse get better, then my thoughts and prayers, whatever I did with crystals, whatever I did with frequencies, acupuncture, or whatever, my Western medication from the veterinarian, the nutrition, the presences around him, all pointed in one direction. And so that's kind of this economy of resources that I'm talking about. But today I want to talk about it more internally. Okay. And so I have 4 steps today. Number 1, stop cursing yourself. So my teacher, Robert Duggan, he used to, and his family would teach me that words are drugs. Not just words are medicine, but words are drugs. And that you're drugging yourself when you speak, you're drugging others when you speak. And so they matter, how you think about yourself. So let me give you an example. Not just how you think about yourself, but how you think about parts of yourself and how parts of yourself thinks about you. So for an example, I've done some things with my life and I have some injuries. I don't have a bad joint in my body. Not one. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have arthritis, and that doesn't mean I don't have creaks and my body makes neat sounds when I walk upstairs and things like that. It doesn't mean I want to bend over and pick things up. It doesn't mean I don't hurt. It doesn't mean I don't wake up hurting sometimes. It doesn't mean I don't go to bed hurting sometimes. But I don't have a bad joint in my body. Not one. They were all given to me. They all served me well. They've all went through way more than I ever thought I could do, much less ever thought I would ask of them. And now they're living with the consequences. So I say, oh, it's a good right knee and left knee. I have, patellofemoral pain syndrome on both my knees. And I'm like going, oh, they're good knees. They went through a lot. And it might sound weird, but like, it's a very my army experience is very, oh, You did so wonderful. You worked so hard. Well, what have you done lately? Oh, you're a bad soldier now because you're injured, you know? And that's a freaking horrific experience. And if you realize that all of your body is alive, you wouldn't do that to parts of yourself, whether it be your brain, your mind, your heart. You wouldn't do it's not just. It's a cruel injustice to do to parts of yourself. And it's very in my mind, it's very weird to sit there and think that these parts of yourself aren't alive and deserving of justice and right action. Okay? So stop cursing yourself. Stop saying I can't. Stop saying, um, I got a bad knee or a bad elbow or a bad whatever. Say that these parts of you are good. Let them know to be good. Not that that's going to change a physical outcome necessarily, but it will change the access your nervous system and your mind and your spirit and whatever religious or spiritual beliefs you have has access to these parts of you. Changes everything, changes the dynamic. Number 2, protect possibilities. Oh my gosh, I did not go through and become a paratrooper because I thought I could. This is one person who is sitting here. I've jumped out of planes in the Army static line jumps at both Fort Benning and Fort Bragg. Not a lot of them, but enough. And I did not know that I could be a paratrooper. I had no idea. I went to school. I'm wondering if I could do it or assuming that I couldn't. No idea. I had a traumatic brain injury and completed an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's after that. I had no idea I could do any of that. Became a doctoral candidate. Had no idea I could. You don't have to assume that you can to just not assume you can't. You don't have to have evidence. Protect possibilities. Get in the habit of protecting possibilities. Get in the habit of thinking about how something could happen rather than assuming it can't. And then you can decide if it's worth it, and you can protect that possibility. Your mind will start finding solutions that you never thought possible when you start protecting the possibilities around you and the good things that could happen. Number 3, and challenge your internal dialogue. This is huge. This kind of goes back to the bad knees and all that stuff. But it is also external. So if you have something and you are in a hiccup with somebody else and you're all in a kerfuffle and you have these stories about that MF or whatever, the way you speak to them and about them is going to change. The way that you behave and the decisions that you make is going to change. I'm going to tell you something that I have learned in combat. I've learned, I'm sorry, not in combat itself, but in a combat zone. I've learned it in law enforcement. I've learned it in other places. If you disrespect somebody, then you are actually a risk to them. Okay. So if you start thinking about things like, what if I'm wrong? If the decision I'm about to make about that person, if I'm wrong, is that a just decision? What proof do I have against it? My thought, my conclusion. What proof do I have for it? Do I just not like them? They don't have to be a bad person to not like them. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of backlash that comes from behaviors that come from the stupid stories we think about other people. Be quiet, cat. And maybe who are you without thinking it? If you stopped thinking in that manner, in that pattern, when you think about people, who are you without that? And number 4 today, pay attention to everything. So part of streamlining your resources and your thought processes and things is to pay attention to your internal dialogue, pay attention to your patterns, pay attention to your sensations, pay attention to what shows up in life, pay attention to everything. And again, if you keep doing these things, you are going to find that your brain starts to shift and you will find solutions that you never, ever, 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 ever thought you had. Okay, so I've thrown this book in before, but this one kind of closely, I mean, it's not a perfect match for what I'm talking about, but some of it is. And that's the 4 Agreements. And I highly recommend you read the 4 Agreements. It's an amazing book. It's a life-changing book. I read it, well, it was before 9/11. No, it was after 9/11. So 2001. And it really shifted me. But then once you start putting in things into a practice, like I hope you do these things I told you, I hope you take one at a time, break it off as a practice for a while. And but that book is also a shifting sort of transformative book if you actually practice the things. You take it, write it down, and you focus your life through that lens for a while, and then move on to the next one. So the things that are going on, I'd like to say with the channel, I put a pause. I'm still working on this journal, but I put a pause on it. It's not entirely related to this channel, but I have found that there is a need in the world for literature that is more of like a adult needs, topics like finance, topics like living with disabilities, just the things that you walk around and take advantage of, that you read off the internet, and you figure out how to do things, or you learn some history or something, and it's written at like a 10th grade reading level or higher. There's a need for that to be written at like a 2nd grade reading level. So I am rapidly becoming an author, because there's a big world out there full of adults with invisible injuries that affect their cognition, as well as limited language skills. And so this is quite the surprise to me, but I myself had to relearn how to read. I kid you not. After COVID and the vaccine, I had to start over and learn how to read again. And so there's people out there that still have a hard time with comprehension and retention at the reading levels that they were used to reading prior to that. I wasn't the only one. And so while that's not entirely related specifically to this channel, it's still it's for them, that's a resilience thing. Okay, it's a resource for them. So I'm still working on my journal. This is that prompt journal for embodiment. There's some life things that showed up. The other exciting thing that I want to do with this channel is I want to teach you practices, and I am anyway, but there's these ways of being in your body and being in relationship with other people that help with resilience. But then there's also actual cognitive processes that you can do to improve the way you think about problem solving and more streamlining your thought processes. But I'm breaking them down to specific skills. So there are specific practices. So like 1 month or week or whatever it is you want to do, you take a week and say, okay, I am going to look at the world through the lens of, instead of looking at the problem, I'm going to look at the context of the problem and see what I learn. Okay. And then really be diligent about that and see how it changes you. And by the time you're done with all these practices, the way that you approach things might quite often would be different. But the practices itself is going to change the way you think, because you're going to start changing how your brain's wired. Okay, and I'm really excited to have that on the radar, the things that I want to sprinkle in. And so I'll sprinkle these different videos in to do these different things, but then I'm going to put them kind of in their own playlists. So as you come to the channel and you go, no, I want to focus on being embodied and build those resources and self-soothing and taking care of myself, or I really want to focus on facing my own crap, and being accountable, or I want to really focus on, because who wants to be accountable? All right. Or I want to focus on, changing how I think and to be a more resilient thinker and problem solver. And then these playlists will be available for you. I'm really excited about that. So that's it for today. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to have a couple links. I'm going to have a book link in the thingy, the description. And I am going to have a link for my Venmo if you care to support the channel. Thank you.